Welcome back to Bunny Banter, the first and only podcast for everything Killer Bunnies. I'm your host Matt, here with co-host Mikey,
Hello.
and as an emergency backup guest, we have Chris,
Yay!
which is fine because what we talked
I have
about
a lot
today,
of
yeah,
yeah.
what we talked about today, Mikey.
Today we are going to go over and review some of our speculations from before when we were speculating about London, and we're going to see what we guessed correctly, what we guessed wrong, um, and maybe things that surprised us.
Yeah, so this is looking back at London, if you will. It's kind of like a first impressions of the La-Di-Da London booster, as we started playing with it recently. I think I've been playing London games for about a month now. Same goes for Chris. We both have about 7 games in. I believe Mikey has 2 games of London in, so we've got a little bit of experience. I believe the plan is to do a second impressions video 4 weeks from now with Joe Sack. So look forward to that episode. But for now, we have our first impressions looking back on London Booster and our speculation. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is the Underground stations, the main mechanic of London Booster, of course. As a reminder for what the Underground stations are, for those who haven't played with London yet, they're played immediately into the bunny circle, and each of them has a number and a color, where when that colored die rolls that number, and if you have that Underground station, you get to steal a bunny with an oyster cracker. The oyster cracker being a bunny modifier that's a run card. So it's certainly a difficult mechanic to pull off, but it is quite relevant when you do having the ability to steal a bunny. Mikey, have you seen Bundergrounds be relevant yet in your 2 games?
We have got Underground stations down. We have had oyster crackers on bunnies, but nobody's ever rolled the right number.
Yep. How about you, Chris?
Uh, it was relevant in one of our games. However, it was almost meant to be relevant the way we played it. You traded for a few underground stations and just happened to put the oyster cracker on the really powerful bunny we had in the circle. So it felt almost like a little bit of king making to make it happen. Just a little bit. I know it was part of your strategy to make it happen that game, but it did change the outcome of the game in the long term. But it did feel a little forced to me to make it worth your while. But other than that, I see it as something that when it happens, it's magical. But until that happens, it probably won't be relevant. 4 out of 5 games.
Quite true, quite true. Yeah, the game that it happened, it was a 3-player game, and early on in the game, I drew an oyster cracker, which I of course saved because I learned from the first game of London, the oyster crackers really need to be saved for a bunny that is not going to die anytime soon. So I saved the oyster cracker, and I gradually started trading for underground stations that players randomly drew. Oh no, I said the R word. Okay, moving on.
Oh,
That definitely skillfully drew, and I started training for them, and I gave them relatively good deals, all things considered. I gave Christy a bunny for a underground station. Little did she know I was actually playing a bit of passive neutral. I actually didn't want my bunny anyways because I knew Chris was going to kill it. So that was actually a slight indirect false trade. And then I believe I traded. What did I trade you for the underground station, Chris?
shoot. I think it was. Oh, it was Run Amok, wasn't
Oh
it?
yes, the special run amok, which of
And I
course,
did get a lot of use out of that.
yeah, is of course a quite disruptive card. Allows the player to force an opponent to discard the top and bottom run cards. Very good if you are high skilled in knowing when you should play it. So I created an interesting scenario. Might be perfect for some case study analysis. That where I traded pretty aggressively, or generously, I should say, for the Undergrounds. And of course, by trading a run amok, I gave Chris the opportunity to discard the Oyster Cracker as soon as he would see that I set down my London card that I've been holding in my hand for the past 20 turns. Knowing that that threat was there, I decided to reveal a second threat to Chris. I had half price coupon and double no trouble in my hand. And I didn't show them to Chris, but I held up those two cards and told him, you know what these are. You know you need to save run amok for those. Both markets were closed, by the way. So it wasn't actually any threat whatsoever. But just the fact that those cards exist and the market could reopen, I made sure Chris was scared.
I had to open all markets though.
Right, you did get
Yeah. It was one of those things where I felt really good getting rid of a powerful potential, where I didn't see the Underground as relevant yet.
Right, yeah. So I was purposefully making sure that Chris felt scared about the cards we knew were strong, rather than the card we thought might be strong. So then getting to that point, Chris was utilizing a full freight train aggressive strategy. He had a holographic bunny that was very stacked with ranks and senators and clovers. Yeah, so that holographic bunny wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. It was pretty much going to survive the whole game. And eventually I snuck in my Oyster Cracker. I already had 2 Undergrounds. And then at that point, the only thing I had to do was play a incredibly magic fountain, get a couple rerolls on the red die, make sure I get the right one, and all of a sudden, I had a full swing turn, much bigger swing than you would expect from just stealing 1 bunny. But because it was the holographic bunny, I went from having no bunny, playing just my 1 card a turn that wasn't doing anything, to playing 4 cards a turn, because I drew the second rank, and I got a triplet, and I got the first rank for the holographic. Full swing.
Did you also have Calcite Conundrum too?
I also eventually got Calcite Conundrum. It was a complete swing from me having nothing to me being the player with full freight train. And that was all caused...
Now you started doing the winning.
I started doing the winning. It was all caused by the Underground Station. Now, before everyone gets too excited about Underground Stations, that was 1 out of 7 games. Chris said 4 out of 5, but it's not going to happen. It didn't happen 6 out of 7.
Yeah, I like you'll draw one at least and be able to have it in your circle.
Right.
6 out of 7 is more so seeing it used.
Right, yeah, that's pretty accurate, I suppose.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 games you might drop Underground Station. Although,
or an oyster.
It begs the question, and this is a theoretical topic: how much is a Underground Station actually worth trading for? Because the Underground Station literally won me that game. But it's not often going to do that. Usually it's just going to be completely worthless. What do you think, Mikey?
I think I got an email.
Oh,
I don't know. The underground stations are interesting, just because with the amount that we have currently, and the amount of oyster crackers we have currently, if you're playing full set, I feel like the likelihood of it being effective and actually doing something right now is kind of low. Like you were talking about, you got it was relevant in 1 of 7 games that you played. And even if you're like me, where we had the entire thing set up to have, it actually work. Although the only thing was I had both of the underground stations, so it would have only traveled. Once it got on the underground station, if it would have traveled, it would have traveled just to me potentially. Excuse me. You can have it all set up perfectly, and you could even have all the underground stations out, and you still might not roll the correct number on the red die. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to see when we get more oyster crackers and more stations, um, just to make it a little more relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think underground stations are perhaps the mechanic that has the most difficult setup to actually be relevant. We can make a comparison to senators a little bit. Senators, you have to draw the senator itself, which is a bunny modifier. It's then placed on a bunny and doesn't do anything for a long time, and perhaps the bunny even dies before it does anything. Is usually what happens. But every once in a while, someone will have a senator, and then someone else will draw a terrible misfortune casting. And at that exact moment, the senator has gained insane amount of value by providing the opportunity to kill anybody you want with the casting terrible misfortune. A similar comparison can be made with the underground stations. First, you need the underground station, which is played immediately. Unlike Sanders, it's a little bit more difficult to get rid of, so there's that. However, again, unlike Sanders, the casting terrible misfortunes, they're going to happen regardless. In order for a underground to be relevant, you have to first get an oyster cracker, and then you need to find a bunny where it's relevant to play the oyster cracker on, and then you have to hope that bunny doesn't die, and then you need to have a consistent way to roll the red die.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of conditions to have set up. And you can play around that pretty easily, actually. You know, you could buy your double red pawn. Sure, that works. You can gather cards like Incredibly Magic Fountain, Mad Baker, all of those that roll the red die, and you can play multiple times to make sure you get the result you want. That's what I ended up doing. You also have to preemptively trade for the underground stations, because absolutely no one's going to trade one as soon as the oyster cracker's out, because then it's actually worth something. Preemptively, it's worth nothing. But in comparison to Sanders, casting terrible misfortune causes the bunny to die. A oyster cracker underground station combination causes the bunny to be stolen, which is incredibly more value. And it's an excellent counter to things like the Heavenly Halo, the holographic. Those are the two exact cases that I would save an oyster cracker for. Maybe something like Puptastics, where it's really difficult to kill it and target it. But
Bunny Detroit, maybe?
Bunny Detroit, I'd honestly even be more reluctant with Bunny Detroit than Puptastics. But it's any of those, they're okay, but really the Halo or the holographic is what you want to steal. Just with how difficult they are to kill.
Super Pink.
Super Pink, that one's going to die anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Do not place an oyster cracker on a red or pink bunny, especially a pink lethal, because that bunny's already being trying to killed. Everyone's already trying to kill that bunny. The oyster cracker will be completely wasted, and it feels bad.
I was gonna add to the value of underground. I understand what you're saying with the senator as far as interacting with it, but I think the value of the underground and the oyster cracker is more in line with the Zodiac or Mysterious Place.
Prophecy strats. I was actually literally about to say we could also compare it to Zodiacs and Mysterious Places.
Because if you consider the Zodiac the underground station, the oyster cracker would be the final card in the little cards pile of the Zodiac.
Yeah, that's a very good comparison. It's always a question of, is it actually worth it to trade for Zodiacs or Mysterious Places, because of the very low probability they'll actually do anything. You know, there's 24 Zodiacs in the draw deck. Do you actually want to trade for your winning one? Even if, as it is currently, the Rat Chinese Zodiac is currently the current Zodiac and Chris's birth Zodiac. If that one happened to win, Chris would literally win the game, essentially.
Yeah.
Because if it's both the winning, the current, and the birth Zodiac, you get to steal all but one carrot from each player at the end. 1 in 24 chance of that happening. But is it actually worth it for Chris to trade for the rat?
Sure.
A similar comparison can be made to underground stations. There is a very low chance that an oyster cracker will be drawn. There are currently 3 in the deck. There will be more. Currently only 3. And there's day trippers, which we could cover separately. But so there's a 4-card relevance, and there's only 10 underground stations currently. That's very difficult to draw in a deck that's nearing 1,400 cards. Especially if you're playing with a lesser carrots amount than the full set of 58 currently. If you divide out carrots at the start and play like a 30 carrot game, I don't see it becoming relevant. Although the game where it did, it was a 30 carrot game. Although it was also a double closed market, so that delays the game. So comparisons can be made.
I think a reference for people that are starting out with London should kind of, at least for starting out, should treat it like a Zodiac.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade away all my good stuff for them. I might, if I knew I had an oyster cracker in hand, but it's not something that you should be trading the world for.
Yeah, as soon as someone starts trading large amounts for a underground station, you have to look at their hand. If they have a card from London in their hand, they must have an oyster cracker. Not look at the backs of the cards of their hand. You know what I mean. And check if they have a card from London, and if they do, it's an oyster cracker. Easy hand tracking. Until that point, unless they're all London, then who knows which one it is. They have all 3 of the oyster crackers. Oh no. I got 2 oyster crackers the one game we played, the first game.
Yeah, I've drawn a lot of the oyster cracker. It's the underground that I seen is harder.
Yeah, which is ironic since there's only 3 oyster crackers and there's 10 undergrounds. So Undergrounds, that is the main mechanic of London. Some other things I wanted to cover are when we were speculating, we did not have the bunny bits in front of us. Now that we do, there's a few unique rules that are interesting that I want to highlight and discuss. So the first one is from the Choose a Carrot Greenwich Mean Time. As a reminder, that is the card where you take the current time in London, so either 1 through 12, and subtract a roll on the orange die, and you get to choose that many carrots. There's 2 rules with it. There's 2 unique rules highlighting the bunny bits that aren't written on the card. Let's talk about the first one first. That is, if your result is a negative number, so let's say it was 5 p.m. in London and you rolled a 6, you lose carrots. So you would lose 1 carrot in that case. What do you think about that, Mikey?
That's interesting. Don't really like things where you lose carrots. That's not that fun. I don't know. I don't think I really like that, just because it's kind of a delay of game. And I don't know if I would play it, just because I would risk losing carrots, and I'd rather just keep the ones that I had. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to play it, otherwise, when you roll the 12 and it's 1 o'clock in London.
Well,
carrots, right?
Other way around, Chris. If it's 12 o'clock in London and you roll 1, you get 11 carrots.
Yep.
Yeah.
You need is it the orange pawn for that?
Yep, it'd be the orange die. So perhaps buy the orange pawn. Haha. Strategy. Making the orange pawn more valuable. Good job, Jeff, at balancing the pawns, making sure that orange pawn was one of the less popular ones before Well, it's starting to gain popularity again with ever since metal coins. There's a bit of interaction there. What do you think, Chris, about the clarification that you could lose carrots from Greenwich Mean Time?
Play it anyway. I like it. I think it's too much value not to play. I mean, it can go the other way too, can it? You can what's the maximum you could lose?
Well, it depends on what time in London it is. That's the question. What time in London would it have to be for you to be willing to play it?
I think it's one of those cards you play early when you don't have that many carrots anyway. Well, of course, you have to be playing full set with all the carrot count then, but
Right, and you have to be starting the game at the right time.
or yeah. I wouldn't not play it. I don't feel like the negative is that. I mean, you have just as much chance to get a high roll.
If it's the right time in London.
Yeah.
So
what do we have a chart to see what the times are?
I can.
I mean, like, we should create a diagram to show what times not to play this card.
Well, it depends on your time zone too, for a comparison. But let's see, 12 p.m. in London would be 7 a.m. in Eastern Time. Well, let me get Central since that's more what we're used to. That'd be 6 a.m. in Central.
Okay.
Or 12 a.m., that's midnight London time, 6 p.m. in Central, of course. So if you're in Central Time like us, 6 p.m., anytime between 6 and 7 is optimal to play Greenwich Mean Time.
In the morning.
In the morning or the afternoon.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So for us, that's fairly easy. If we're playing an afternoon game, perhaps you save this for later in the game, after the time is switched over. You know, if your game's going for 3 to 4 hours, it's not that unreasonable to consider saving this for later in the game. Not too late though, because there is a second unique rule with this one. And that is, you can never gain more carrots than half of the remaining carrots. There's actually another card that has a similar non-disruption clause, I guess you could call it, that stops excessive carrot acceleration in the late game. It seems like that tends to be the norm for large carrot generation for recent cards printed. So knowing that, what do you think about the clause that stops you from gaining large amounts of carrots in the late game, Mikey?
I don't think it's a bad clause. I think it is. I think it's a good thing because I would hate for just a two-player game if you're playing with not that many carrots, and to have my opponent suddenly get all but one carrot. Say that's how that's the way the math worked out. I'd be kind of upset. And I feel like that could unnecessarily speed up the game depending on how many carrots you're playing if you didn't have the clause. So I think it's a good idea. How many carrots are there in just starter, blue and yellow?
Blue and yellow, that is 12 carrots.
Okay, so imagine you didn't have this clause. And like in one of your first turns, you got this, and it just happened to be the ideal time, and you got 11 carrots. Oh, game's almost over.
Feels bad.
So I think the clause is, although you would have a little more than 12 carrots because you would have added London.
Right.
And just an example, kind of a poor one, but
Well, hey, if you divide carrots out at the start and just decide to play a 12 carrot game, It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
That works as an example.
So
I completely agree.
So can you say the description of the card again? You roll the die, you get
You roll the orange die, subtract the roll from the current time in London. So if it's 12 o'clock in London, you roll 6, you gain 6 carrots.
so you wouldn't want to add the 20-sided die with a very special
Correct. You want to reduce
because
the
then it'd
roll.
be you want to have a low roll.
Yes, low roll better.
Hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree that I really like this clause because it's, when we talked about the starter set, I had half price coupon as my band card because of how disruptive it can be, where you think the game is going on for several more turns and then all of a sudden one person reveals that they can buy twice as many carrots than you expected.
yeah.
This is kind of like that, except there's no setup work. All you need is to play it at the right time, roll the right number, choose 11 carrots. Feels really bad if there are only 11 carrots left. So hence, there's a clause that says, hey, in order to be able to choose 11 carrots, there have to be at least 22 carrots available, which is very nice. Not
Has
so
like an 11.
yeah, not so relevant in full set since there's such a large carrot count. The only time this clause matters is in the very late game, which is the only time where we want it to matter. So that's great.
Hmm.
What do you think about Chris?
Um, I don't see it as that relevant. The card. I mean, you're still gonna get carrots probably. What time would you not want to play it? So if you
At
want to play it at 6 and 7, you probably don't want to play it at, would it be noon?
let's see, it'd be 12 hours. Let's see. We'd want 1 a.m. in London. That'd be 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time would be the absolute worst time to play it. Or 7
Okay.
a.m. 7 o'clock a.m.
Yeah,
And
I don't think it's the other clause. It makes sense to me. Um, it reminds me a lot of the end early card.
Tippy
Um,
Tellos.
yes, it could have that effect if that wasn't a clause. I mean, Chili Challenge takes a lot to achieve,
Yeah,
but
including your opponent not having Dala,
right.
which is a large condition.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't overthink this card. It doesn't seem like it's even if you lose at 1 or 2 carats. I mean, you had the chance of gaining a lot too, probably, unless you really are bad at rolling a dice.
Right.
It's a risk card. A good risk card.
While we're on the topic of the carrot disruption clause, another card in London has a similar clause, much less impactful though. The double-decker bus. Chris and I saw the double-decker bus be relevant in one of the games. Of course, with the full deck, you don't expect to draw a specific card often, but we saw it be relevant, and we even saw a few trades around it. Uh, so, how about Chris? How about you tell us about, if you remember, you can tell us about what happened with the double decker bus. The
Let's
first game we
see.
played. Quincy got first.
You gotta think about it for a second. Um,
If you don't remember, I think I remember most of it.
maybe give me started. I might
Yeah, so
jump in.
so our friend Quincy initially played the double decker bus, and I think he got about 4 carats out of it. As a reminder for those listening, double decker bus is the save special with the pink circle, so you have to keep a bunny at all times. Where each time the player rolls doubles, they get to uh, gain a carrot. So whenever they're playing any other card like Surprise and they happen to roll doubles, congratulations, you get a carrot. Feels pretty good. Uh, I believe in our game, Quincy got about 4 carrots out of it first. At that point, he was at risk of losing all of his bunnies. He was about to. I think they were starving to death or something. So I traded for it from him with the condition that I would give him half the carrots I earned from it. At which point I think I gained about 6 carrots from it, so we each got 3 more carrots.
Mm-hmm.
So in total, Double Decker Bus, it was played somewhat early mid game, lasted until the end game, and gained about 10 carrots.
I remember. I remember.
And noteworthy, that was a full carrot counts game, all 58 carrots. So it was over a longer period than most players might be accustomed to. What do you think about that, Mikey?
I like the idea of the double back. I like the idea and what the double decker bus actually does. I think it is a good card because while you can generate large amounts of carrots, it's over a period of time instead of suddenly acquiring a large amount. I mean, because it's not just choose a carrot. It's choose a carrot when you roll doubles. Then first you have to get a card then that allows you to roll multiple die, and then you actually have to roll doubles. And then obviously that varies depending on how many die you have to roll. No, I think it is a good card. I like the way that Jeff designed it. He did a very good job.
Yeah, I completely agree. Chris, you were the victim, you might say, of Double Decker
Yeah,
Bus,
I
since
remember
you didn't actually gain any benefit of it. So what are your thoughts on it? Maybe it
I
goes on
was
your ban
keeping
list.
quiet. I was keeping quiet. It it feels a lot like as the outsider looking in, it feels a lot like when your opponent gets calcite or the pawn card, the ultimate pawn power.
Yep.
It feels a lot like that when you're looking on it from the outside, and your opponent's just getting an obscene amount of value from it. I can understand the fun of it if you have it, but it does seem extremely greedy to me. I mean, you have to get a card to roll the dice, and then you have to make sure you have a bunny in the circle. I think it dies otherwise, right?
Right, yeah. Just like the middle.
So it's going to be for the player that kind of has something established. You're going to have a couple bunnies that are harder to kill. You're probably going to have a rank so that you can play those cards that roll multiple dice. You're probably going to have a couple pawns too, because you're not going to play this willy-nilly. It seems like a greed card to me, and it's a good acceleration card, but it's going to be a lot of acceleration for one player.
I think it would be a good card for a passive player, actually.
We did discuss that in our speculation. Passive players could very easily I lost my words. Passive player could very easily offer to give an opponent the next however many carrots they gain from it for some favor of them not being targeted.
And generally, passive players aren't targeted really at all anyway. So if you have one bunny and you're doing your passive stuff, and you just every once in a while play a card that allows you to roll die, like say you play, supply surprise. You give the supplies to another player, and you roll doubles. You get a carrot, and nobody's really upset about that. They get stuff. You get a carrot. It's a passive. I think it is an effective card for passive players if you play it right.
It's also an extremely aggressive card if you play it aggressively.
True.
Imagine if you put it underneath Kelpies.
Oh.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think the Double Decker Bus. I love this card because I do believe it fits pretty much every form of strategy. It's perfect for the aggressive freight train because you're playing a lot of cards and you'll get a lot of doubles. And usually, freight train aggressive, you're not worried about being targeted because you're going to be the target anyways. So you already have those defensive measures in place with defense cards and such. It fits perfectly with hidden investments, neutral aggressive. If you have those super supplies saved up, you have those uh, the carrot top casinos saved up. I almost said Carrot Top Academy.
Nope.
If you have those Carrot Top casinos saved up, you have those incredibly magic fountains saved up, which has huge synergy with Double Decker Bus. You get to resurrect bunnies, so you'll keep the bus longer, and you get to roll doubles. Insane. It has so many synergies, and passive strategy that Mikey's just mentioned, where you give away the other rewards and you're just going for the carrots. Clarissa would use this card very well because Clarissa is the type of passive player that can more or less get away with having a large carrot count and just
Yeah.
not playing weapons on people and just going that passive route. A bit of
You know what it is, Matthew?
what is
I
it?
just it's literally the metal exchange.
It is a little bit actually, yeah.
Because you can use the metal exchange to be absolutely the emperor of the game. Or you can use the metal exchange and just have something of value that makes you able to achieve passive play.
And similar to the Metals Exchange, if the opponents ignore it, you're going to get significantly more value from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely a card to watch out for. Uh, we predicted it would be relevant. I believe we were right. Obviously, we won't draw it every game, but the games where it's drawn, watch out because anybody who has it will negotiate whatever they can to keep it, probably. Quincy traded it to me for free when he was about to lose it, just for the sake of splitting the rewards. Which was good for me, because I got half the rewards. Notice I got the first half, so since we actually ended on an odd number of carrots, I actually got more. I believe we actually got 7 carrots out of it. I may or may not have planned that. It certainly also combos well with all of the pawn strategies of, hey, let's buy double blue pawn, play the super supplies multiple times. Any of those multiple use cards are huge. Maybe that's the same reason Jeff printed, what's the card? Rotten Peas? Is that it?
Oh.
Mushy Peas. That's it. Mushy Peas.
Yeah.
That hard counters saving P cards.
You mean the green ball with red stripe
Yes,
card?
the card with the green ball with red stripe.
It's coming.
Mechanic pending.
It's coming.
We have no idea if that'll actually be a thing.
If it does, I really hope they make a foam squishy ball of the green ball.
That would be cool. Yeah, we
We
do
deserve it.
we do have the official promo of the yellow ball with red stripe, which is really cool. Definitely worth it.
You might have to dump a picture of that on the circle later, Matthew.
I might
just so
do
people
that,
know
but
it exists.
then everyone will want one, which they might be
I
hard
think
to
you
find
gotta-
these days.
Maybe we should just buy them all beforehand.
I think when I bought it, it cost $15. Is that right? $15 for
like
basically
eight,
a
it was
basically
like
a stress
8
ball.
with shipping.
It was like it's a stress ball. That's the actual yellow ball with red stripe. Absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I think it was
Anyways,
$8 plus shipping from Australia.
that was probably it. Yeah. Let's see. Which one do we want to talk about next? How about we talk about? I'm a bit disappointed with this one. Day trippers. When we talked with, I think that was the episode Joseph was on. We came up with all these combos. Oh, what if you do this with day trippers? What if you do this with day trippers? Very cool things. Think I'm going to buy it back. I've seen day trippers 4 out of the 7 games, and it hasn't done anything yet. So feels a little bad. I'm a bit disappointed with day trippers. Although, in fairness, when we made those predictions, I was utilizing a aggressive passive alliance known as Kinder Protection Services, and it would fit quite well into there. I'm not currently playing that strategy for various reasons. But
He doesn't like Kinder Bunnies
I don't
anymore.
like Killer Bunnies anymore. They can die just like the rest of them.
Oh no.
Well, that alliance is an extremely toxic strategy, but sure, if you form that type of large scale alliance and each player gets a underground station, I think day trippers could work in that context. Other contexts, I don't see it as much. I kind of view it as just yet another double red bunny, which is good. Red pawn is a strong pawn, so triplets, yay. Um, you could view it as a double red bunny that can't be stolen, because if they were to steal it, as long as you have a underground station, if they were to steal it, it would just rotate back to your underground.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of how day trippers needs to be viewed primarily, is a double red bunny that can't easily be stolen until another player draws a underground station.
So if you have all the underground stations, you're a winner.
Exactly, yeah. It's like being surrounded by barriers with Lonely Ranger, except you actually get the bunny back, as though anybody was going to steal Lonely Ranger. Excellent synergy with Poverty Poker. So there's that. I say excellent synergy as it lets you gamble a bunny for free. One bunny, great. Congratulations, you have $10 that you can gamble at no risk. Yay! Synergy. So there's that. Maybe it's worth something. You know, a triplet that can't be stolen. There's that. That's a thing. I might have to look back
Don't
into
we
it.
don't we already have that with Zodiacs though? Wait, they can be
Well,
stolen.
the Zodiac triplet, yes, that's a edge case. Um, but yes. Anything else we want to say on day trippers? Most of that was just my stuff. I'm trying to remember if Chris, you didn't draw it at any point, did you? I think I drew it all the time.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm the only one who's drawn it so far. And every time I drew it, I felt like, you know, either I'm already in a winning situation, so this does nothing, or this does nothing. Oh, I thought of a combo. I thought of it. Here we go. Here I go again with the day trippers combos, but this one's a real one. If your opponent gets into that winning state of, I have a underground station, I have an oyster cracker, I'm trying to steal that really impactful bunny, since the underground station can only hold one bunny, you could play day trippers, force the bunny will roam to their underground station, it will stop there since it's the only one, and they will not be able to steal the oyster cracker bunny. Bam, got it. Combo.
Okay, explain that
But-
one more time slowly.
Okay, your opponent has a underground station,
Okay.
and there's a really important bunny with an oyster cracker that they have been trying to steal for a while, but they haven't succeeded yet.
Yeah.
Very important that they haven't succeeded yet. You play day trippers. Day trippers rotates into their underground station, and that's the last place it'll go since it's the only underground station.
Yeah.
Now the underground station is full, therefore the opponents cannot steal the really important bunny with the oyster cracker.
Now you just have to hope that nobody else gets a underground station.
Exactly. Very.
I'm so glad we decided the Buttergrounds were super relevant. Oh wait.
Yeah, very
Oh.
specific edge case. I think that's all.
I think
That's all of
you're
day
pushing
trippers.
it there, Matthew. If the Buttergrounds are only worth at 1 out of 7, then that combo is only going to happen 1 out of 55.
And the rest of the time you're giving your opponent a double red.
Correct.
Hopefully they don't have a red pawn.
Hmm.
Oh, there we go. Passive strategy. Give your opponent double red.
There you go.
Ah,
Ugh.
pro strats. Okay, so day trippers. Our predictions were mostly disappointments. The combos have not happened yet, but they might. They're a bit absurd,
Don't-
but they might happen.
Don't dust your legendaries.
Don't dust your legendaries. There you go. Don't throw away day trippers yet. He might work.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. There's another. This right here, what I'm about to highlight, is just about the least relevant unique rule in the game, I think.
Yay.
I'm going to classify it as the least relevant unique rule because it's attached to one of the least relevant cards. And that is Queen to Queen's level 3.
Okay.
which, as a reminder, can make a single or double British bunny a triplet. Yay, triplets! As though triplets are difficult to come by in full sets. So there's that.
Oh.
There's a unique rule attached to that card that you would never think of. Any player with the 4 saved carrots that spell out I-Z-A-R, so that's carrot I, carrot Z, carrot A, carrot R, may take Queen to Queen levels 3 and reposition it under any bunny in the bunny circle, turning it into a bunny triplet. Oh, I just know something about that. It says any bunny. It doesn't say any single or double branch bunny. Interesting. Maybe it's slightly more relevant than I expected. But regardless, the conditions are somebody has to have played this worthless card, first of all. Which means they need to have a single or double British bunny. There's only 6 of those in the deck. So you need the specific card. You need 1 out of 6 bunnies. You need that triplet to have survived for you to, and you need to have the carrots I, Z, A, and R. Maybe you preemptively buy them in anticipation. And then finally, you get to reposition the cards that now you have a bunny triplet. Hooray! What do you think, Mikey? Am I right in saying that this isn't relevant?
Yeah, for the most part. I'm trying to figure out what Izar is, and I googled it, and there's a village in Iran, and it's also part of clothing worn by male pilgrims during Islamic Hajj. There's an autobiographical novel by a Dutch author, Carlo Groot. I don't know. I'm not sure the significance of Izar. That's what I'm kind of stuck on. But anyway,
I'm presuming it's a Star Trek reference. But I don't know what it is. I haven't seen enough Star Trek, so.
Anyway, yes, it looks like it's some sort of Star Trek. Garth of Izar.
There you go. That must be it.
Okay. Anyway, thinking. Yeah, I don't think it's terribly relevant. I mean, I've never taken the time to try to figure out if I had any carrots that spelled things, but now I guess I'll be paying attention to that. But then also, Queen to Queen's level 3 needs to be in play too. So I mean, I think one of the things that I would do, this would actually be good over tabletop simulator, would be you could go around just like you do with I can't remember the name of the card now. The one where you have to guess who has the number or the letter. Anyway,
Dude, where's my carrot?
Yeah, dude, where's my carrot? Yeah, if you just go around and curate everybody's cards, and then you can figure out whether or not it's safe to play or not.
That's true.
Yeah.
Although I think it'll be pretty safe to play since no one will know this unique rule.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
I see 2 cases of what's going to happen with this rule. Either I'm never going to see it in my lifetime, which is the more
you said
likely.
That about Zodiac Terminator.
Zodiac Terminator? No, I never said I wouldn't see it in my lifetime. I said it was on my bucket list. Accomplished now.
That's basically not in your lifetime.
This one is not on my bucket list. I do not believe I will see this rule become relevant in my lifetime, mainly because in the groups I play in, it tends to be common courtesy to choose random carrots. So if I started purposefully taking carrots I, Z, A, and R, where some of those don't even exist yet, by the way, they'll be released in a later expansion, I think people will start wondering what on earth is going on. Why is this person choosing carrots? Are they playing aggressive? No, he's just trying to meme. And then, if I ever did do that, which seems like a weird thing to do, as soon as I said that rule to somebody was really excited to get a bunny triplet from Queen to Queen's level 3. They were really excited because this card is almost never relevant and they finally did something with it. Congratulations. And then you're like, oh, by the way, I can just steal that. No conditions attached, no dice roll. It's not even a once per game clause. Although you're more likely only going to do it once per game. But that's gonna feel bad if I ever do that to someone. It's like, what do you mean you can just steal my triplet? It doesn't say in that card. I'm like, yeah, it's one of those unique rules. Oh, you know, most
Speaking of,
most unique rules are something that's like, oh, feels great. You got a little bit extra, and nobody really had to know about that relevance because they couldn't play around it anyways. This one, they actually could have played around it, and it feels bad that they didn't know it, so I don't think I'm going to purposefully go for this interaction, even though it's min-max opportunity.
interesting thing about these rules, these uh, special rules that they're. I have found that uh, since in the groups, anytime I play Killer Bunnies with anybody except for Matt, I am the most knowledgeable person in the group, and I will tell people these special rules, and they will just believe me. So I could essentially tell them anything I wanted to, and they never ask to see the directions. So it's an interesting power trip that you can have. That's the thought I have.
North Dakotans are very trustworthy.
I was about to say, I've been in the opposite situation several times, especially during our Killer Bunnies Dark Ages, Chris, where I would say a rule and Luke would question it. I'd be like, yeah, it's in the bunny bits. I can show you the page. And then as soon as I finally revealed it to him and sufficiently proved it to him, he would end by saying that's a stupid rule. Oh, feels bad. What the worst thing is if somebody believes one thing and then the opponent agrees with the incorrect belief, and then you have majority against the correct interpretation, which feels bad. Been there too. So Mikey has been Jeff blessed by a group that trusts his knowledge of the rules.
Because I generally am a trustworthy person.
There you go. I guess I'm not.
Well, we all knew that.
I can't imagine why. I mean, I've accomplished subconscious false trading at this point, so I can't imagine why people wouldn't trust me. I can't even trust myself.
You have to get to the point where you can Nigerian prince and it's still considered passive.
I've gotten close. There was a false trade I accidentally did to Tyler once, where it caused him not to have a bunny at the end of the game. On that exact turn. I ended the game after I traded for his last bunny. Oh, I didn't even realize I was doing it. How bad does that feel? It was still viewed as passive. Because I was passive the entire rest of the game. Oh, that's a whole nother topic though. Let's see, we got a little bit more time. Let's look at one other case. Or, we'll make a comparison. With Station Snatch, we accurately predicted that the bunny would be stolen too. That's correct. With Keep Calm and Bunny On, the card that allows a player with no bunnies to resurrect a bunny, or removes all underground stations from a player, non-aggressive by the way, does not kill the bunnies attached. What do you think about Keep Calm and Bunny On, Mikey, now that we know that it is slightly weaker than we anticipated, that it doesn't kill the bunnies?
Well, it's nice for the person who gets what am I saying? Sorry, give me like 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, okay. It's nice for the person who has their underground stations taken away because at least you get to keep the bunny. And actually, it's not. Honestly, that's not a bad thing. If you have a underground station, or maybe you have 2 underground stations, and you have these, and you have bunnies on them, and somebody else has bunny ground station, your bunnies are bound to move eventually. Well, now you get to keep those bunnies. Hey, they don't move anymore. Now my question is, what happens to day trippers? Does day trippers stay?
Well, as long as there isn't another underground station, I suppose he would.
That's a nice thing. I actually don't think that somebody eliminating the underground stations is a bad thing,
That's a
especially for the person who has
hmm That's a very good point. I initially thought about this card as slightly weaker, but if the player of the card has underground stations and they remove their opponent's underground stations, all of a sudden that bunny that had an oyster cracker no longer has the opportunity to be stolen by the opponent, and only you can steal it. That's actually huge value.
Mhm.
What do you
It's
think,
really
Chris?
similar to barrier removal, I think. It doesn't seem that strong unless the barriers are super relevant.
Right. Yeah, we do have to remember undergrounds will rarely be relevant, but every once in a while, removing a barrier can be very impactful, just like
The
removing a
question is, do
underground.
you save that card in your hand if you draw it first turn?
That is the endless question. Will you save this run card for the very unlikely opportunity to be able to remove up underground at a critical point?
I think most people would send it along its way if it's one of those cards that I'll pass a card to your left, or one of those cards where it reshuffles your hand. You won't be disappointed if you don't get it back.
We do have to remember, however, it does have a second use. This card can be used two different ways. You can also use it just like the card I Dream of Bunny, where if you have no bunnies, you get to resurrect one. It also has that functionality. It's either or.
Overall, I don't think this card. When I first thought about it, I thought of it as being kind of negative for people, especially who got the underground stations taken away. But actually, I think it's really just a positive. Positive is kind of a funny word, but I think it's a good card. I think it it has an opportunity to benefit a lot of people. And honestly, if I had this card and I had underground stations with bunnies there, I would play the card on myself. And I would play the card and eliminate the underground stations, and then keep bunnies.
Well, the bunnies presumably would still have oyster crackers.
True, but if there are no other underground stations in the circle, which that's a high likelihood, just because of the way underground stations are. The games where I've had underground stations, I've been the only one who ever had them, and I had two at one point. So
That's interesting. Removing your own underground stations. Plays their own station snatch.
yeah,
So there's that. Uh, I believe it's weakening yourself against cards like Bunny Exchange, where you would have the opportunity to steal the bunny with the oyster cracker back if you had the underground stations. But certainly a passive strategy worth considering. Perhaps underground stations are considered too aggressive in the case where they're relevant. If you want to stay with passive strategy, perhaps you should remove your own undergrounds. And the counter argument, of course, is you could have played the undergrounds and given them to your opponents anyways,
yeah.
or traded them. But yes, it's certainly worth considering. There's plenty of passive strategy that revolves around killing your own bunnies, which of course is much easier to do than killing your own undergrounds. So having that opportunity is interesting to consider. Okay. I think that was the last card I wanted to discuss today, and we're running short on time. So this has been a looking back on London. Some of our predictions were right, and some of them were very. Some of our predictions were disappointing, but that will give us an idea for when we do the same for future predictions. Looking towards
Buy it.
Buy it. Yes, buy London if you haven't already. Excellent cards in there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, that gives us and perhaps we've learned some things for our predictions as we look towards Cake Batter to be released this fall, hopefully. No word on when we'll get reveals for that yet, but that is on the way. Um, Looking towards next episode, we are of course continuing the booster review on the Violet booster. So Chris will guest again for that. And 2 episodes from now, we'll see. But I think the current plan is a second impressions on London video to see. We'll see if we can get a few more games in. If we can't, we'll probably change the topic for that episode. I predict. But that will be with Joe Slack, the Killer Bunnies celebrity, as Jeff says.
Give us some slack.
Ah. Well played. Let's see. Did I miss any announcements?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say, Mikey?
Again, I think this is the third time I've said this, but just stay safe, everybody. Remember your social distancing. The sooner that we can get this thing pounded into our head, the sooner hopefully we can get out of it. Um, so play Killer Bunnies with your family. Go and play Tabletop Simulator. Check out the Discord. And set up times, or you can do it on the Bunny Circle Facebook page. Just spend your time wisely. Stay at home, and Jeff bless.
Jeff, bless.